Okay, let's see if we can get this working today. Oh, the screen. It's readable, I suppose. Good day, Connie. How you doing? I hate technology. Technology's terrible. But just looking, need to work on real stuff. First work day this year. Nice. No worries, Connie. Appreciate the luck. Appreciate the luck. Thank you very much. Okay. So let's get this buttoned up and then we can move on with... Oh yeah, I was doing tests. I was copying and pasting tests. Trying to get this done before the stream, which was a mistake. Update tenant user handler. Update tenant user. Handler. Call that tenant user repository. Tenant user command. And that takes, right, okay. So we have several IDs here. We have a private GUID, tenant user identifier equals GUID.new GUID. We have private GUID tenant, no, that's a user identifier. Okay, we don't have that. We have username. Username. This is the tenant user. So this takes the tenant user identifier, the tenant identifier, the opposite way, user identifier, and the username. Right? Yeah. So if you're joining, you may notice the difference in the screen again. Because right before the stream, my other monitor seems to have died. So, yeah. Not what I wanted today to start like. This week has been an absolute disaster of technology. So, yeah. Let's see. Tenant. Hopefully the code is actually readable. Hopefully it's scaling properly. I don't want to mess around with the resolution too much. I'm not totally concerned with people seeing the app bar at the bottom. Normally cut that out because it doesn't matter. But yeah, it should be good. Start the get as well. Tenant user is created. Just backfilling tests to make sure these are covered. Because I've got a feeling that these will be expected to receive a call matching, and we didn't do because that's fine. Yep. Tenant user identifier and tenant user dot tenant identifier equals tenant identifier and tenant user dot user identifier equals. So that might seem excessive, considering this kind of describes this and this together. I may drop them afterwards, but for right now, they're all part of the message, so I want to test them at least and make sure I don't break anything there. Okay, we have pass. Okay, so when tenant user does exist, tenant user does exist, and again, in the interest of trying to move this further forward, I'm gonna refer to hi Essa, good morning, how are you doing? No, I can make the font size bigger. Hold on. What? 22. How's that? Right before the stream. So yesterday I was streaming on the 4K monitor because this screen is ridiculously wide and was causing issues for the stream layout. And just before the stream this morning, the other one refuses to actually display an image. So I seem to have killed that monitor as well. So I've had a terrible week in that I've now lost another monitor. So yeah. And this monitor doesn't work with the Apple Mac, so or the Mac. My work computer is now my laptop, and that's it. So yeah, I'm down to one monitor, it seems, and I can't work on this monitor, so I have to work on a little 14-inch screen. So my week has taken a turn for the worst. You can also use Control Plus, yeah. Right, but if I use Control Plus and I navigate back, I'm gonna constantly mess around with that, and I'd rather change the font size and deal with the font size being set. So yeah, I do have. So I could switch this monitor out for my actual gaming monitor, which is 2560 by 14 by 1080. So that's a lower resolution overall. But I chose not to do that because then I could get more space. But now, I'm looking at this font and it's practically a billboard for me. But yeah, I'd rather have the font size a little bit more consistent navigating between tabs, right, than I would keep zooming in and out. So we'll see. Maybe the other monitor will kick back into life or something later. I tried rebooting the computer. I tried doing all sorts, but I wanted to stream, so yeah. No, zoom increases all fonts, also UI. Well, um, well, that zoom doesn't work there. Yeah, it doesn't do that. That brings up that. That's top left keyboard. The tilde / backtick key. Yeah. So we'll leave it at this one. It's fine. Environment fonts and stuff, we'll worry about that later. I mean, I don't suppose you really care too much about the files I'm navigating to, especially in this project. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Tenant. Let's be consistent. Does exist. Two times shift. Yeah. Right. Yeah, you can do that, but font 18. Save that. Right, that zooms everything. Okay. Okay, we'll go with that. 110%. It makes everything a little bit bigger. It makes it so that the code isn't actually a monster for me. We'll go with that one. Thank you, Kenny. Thank you for persisting. Appreciate that. Okay, so we're just going to say tenant user is updated there. Okay. I'm going to copy and paste because I do not want to be stuck in unit testing world right this second. This is existing. Actually, that doesn't matter. This matters. Private const string expected username. The tenant identifier, tenant user identifier, none of them can change. So that's why I dropped expected from there. We do our arrange act. Arrange act. We set up our repository. We handle the repository. The only thing that's going to be different is we're going to add that, right? And original. What did I call it? Again, I'm adjusting that immediately because it's the way I thought about it. It's the original username, and now it's the expected username, right? So I'm making sure that that's correct. I will say that having Copilot in here is definitely helpful when it's writing these sorts of tests. Expected to receive a call matching and actually receive no matching calls. Okay, so that's because we didn't do update because no, we did do this. We set it up. So we said, okay, when we ask for this, we're going to return this tenant user. So why didn't we do that? Let's have a look. So if we get the tenant user, if it's not null, if the name equals, then we just return result invalid. So we'll have to put a test in for that afterwards. We set the name and we call update. So what is the issue with that one? Oh, there we go. That's why. Oh no, that's fine. That's tenant user identifier, user identifier. There's that. User and tenant. I am wildly inconsistent in my ordering of these, so similar to the name and stuff we did the other day. I've got a feeling that's going to bite me at some point, right? So anytime I say tenant user identifier, I should order the parameters in that order because they kind of combine. This is the shared one, so it makes sense to have this as the actual shared identifier. Ultimately, again, like I said, we could probably get rid of these because this covers it. I just don't want to do that right this second, because if you have tickets assigned to a user, that user has a GUID. No, we can't do that. I don't know why I'm even saying that. They can't do that. No, ignore me. Unless I assign it to a tenant user identifier and not a user identifier, right? Which would also make sense. Oh, that's the point. Why does that? So I set up Streamlabs to do some notification stuff this morning. It should be on a cycle, so we're going to keep an eye on it in about 10 minutes. So I did schedule to do another coding challenge. It looks like some people voted. I think Asa, you did, and Sarav in YouTube. Yeah, I set up a schedule of notifications that should pop into chat to prompt, hey, go take a vote. I think I picked 3 again that would, it's not something I do every day. It would be challenging. Maybe I've used some of the technology, but I haven't done that sort of stuff properly in a long time. So yeah, so we'll spend a slightly longer stream on one day doing them. Why are you failing? You're failing because you didn't get the call you expected. So we expect username. We expect to send a tenant user into update, and we didn't do. So let's just. It's a parameter thing. Without a doubt, it's a parameter thing. Come on. No, we didn't get a call at all. So then our call to get the user is failing. So this piece is not working as it should. Returns a tenant user, right? So let's just go look. Let's see what happens. Debug. Okay. We have a tenant user. They're not null. Tenant username equals that. Name equals that in the command. That will be why. When tenant user exists and no changes. What the? Did I hit that? No, I did not hit that. When tenant user exists and no changes, right? So essentially we can take all this, right? We can move them into global usings, I think, at this point. Global. arrange act, right? And no changes. So we pass in original username, we get out original username apparently. So we actually want to pass in expected username. So in this case, we can remove that. Did not receive any call to update. Any tenant user. Tenant user is not updated, and we want to say result is, what I call it, invalid, right? So that is useful. The returning result as invalid, it doesn't do anything to the code, it doesn't do anything to the actual surrounding thing, but it will allow us to kind of log that, or at least change the behavior based upon this being called and the event in the event that we need to respond to this. So it's better to be clear about it than it is to that works. That's not really how it's going to work, but yeah. So we need a private result equals null. Then we do this, and then is success assert dot. Actually, let's do a check on the status. Assert dot equal result status dot invalid result dot status. Run unit tests. Right. So we know that one's working now. So here, like I said, the problem was one of mismatched parameters. So I can confidently say that test's correct, but it did force us to make that the test, right? So there's no bad side there. Okay. So at this point, we should be able to run. I know that some of this is working, by the way. So based upon yesterday, obviously we ended on the stream with the slight error on the database. So, but I can say for certain the tenant did get there today. Ticket notes, they don't matter right this second because we're not working with them. That's Kafka being weird. So Kafka broker. So this just processed one of the other commands, basically. Right, so this will probably by virtue of, yeah, this is just updated the last command. So that was a command that failed previously. So now we should have a tenant user. Yeah, there we go. There's our tenant, there's our tenant user. And I don't need to go through the effort of testing it all again. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I think, for the most part, for what we're working on right now, those pieces are working, right? So our create ticket component is functional. It's not perfect. There's going to be some bugs. This is where regression testing and all those sorts of fun things are going to have to come in at some point, where I'm going to have to focus some energy on getting those pieces up and running. I was taking a look at, hopefully nothing personal, No, that was actually perfect. What's it called? I just had it up there. .NET.testcontainers.org. So I was starting to take a look. I apologize for the giant bright white screen. Um, I Go does not have plugins in the same way that I can find, so I do not have a dark mode plugin. But I'm starting to kind of consider tinkering with this sort of stuff. I'll probably do this sort of stuff off the stream because it's really boring to watch someone. I mean, Mr. Anhorn is not wrong in that it is kind of boring to watch someone do some research on stuff. Learning as I'm going is one thing, but actual research and trying to figure out this from scratch would be a little bit more than I think I would like to do on stream. But the point is, I'm trying to consider building repeatable tests and integration tests at that. And test containers look like they may help me get some of that done. Just got to figure out effective usage. So yeah, that's one of the things I want to do. I do want to get into because then it will allow me to kind of run a suite of tests over the application, and then when I do major refactorings like I've been doing, I don't have to be afraid. So there is one other area we do need to test right now, and that is that can we add a ticket? Can we? I think we do support pretty much everything at this point, so we can create a ticket, we can update a ticket, we can get a list of tickets. But this is going to require messing around. So I'm not going to do this on stream. I can do that off stream without a challenge. So let's get this story. And again, because I'm relatively early on, I'm not too worried about this right now. I will have to fix some of this stuff if we go as I go forward anyway. So and there's nothing that's worrying me about that. And still, it hasn't done the notification. Streamlabs, you garbage. That's terrible. You should have posted the thing in by now. Oh well. Okay, so let's let's get this commit done. I'm not going to play around with trying to get this broken down into meaningful commits. If this was for real, right? Like for real, where I was in an organization doing this sort of stuff, I should not have been so cavalier in the way I approach this, right? This is done because I'm trying to do it on the stream. I'm trying to do refactorings. I'm trying to move things around, test things, and I'm trying to keep track of all that. And you know, there's something to be said for, you know, partial commits are the app isn't going to work, right? So I had to do a whole lot of stuff to get the actual app to get even running again. So yeah, broke out all components from work items into tickets component projects to represent, because work items was about to get too big, and now what we're going to see is we're going to have to put in some events and integration events to support shifting things around a little bit, right? Because I'm going to have to create the other components here at some point shortly, and work on promotion. Tickets project, tickets component, all pieces of work items component into new tickets component. Obviously, naming. We still have some naming issues with tickets, but now we've got it in a better place. That's better. Better overall for future updates. So broke out all pieces of work items components into new tickets. Moved responsibility of creating, updating tenant and tenant user tickets into application domain. Shifted events, integration events, or Kafka events as they are, to data plus source format instead of how do I put this? So realistically, what I'm doing now is I'm not publishing from Kafka or with Kafka. I'm not publishing tenant created. I'm not publishing user updated. I'm publishing there's a user, and I'm giving it a source so that I know where it came from. But I'm not publishing. It is an event in so much as the data changed. But it's up to the system that consumes it to decide how it cares about that event happening. Events from did X thing to X thing X integration event, i.e. tenant was created becomes because again the goal there will be to publish the data that I feel the rest of the system cares about. So we'll get around to user afterwards. That's enough for now. We don't need to write including 7 blocker issues. Okay, what do you deem a blocker issue? No. Oh, okay, I get that. Okay, so they're going to be consistent with the same. Nice. 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 Not debating that. That password won't work for anyone off my machine. Rename class when assigned user is changed to match Pascal naming rules. Consider when assigned user is changed. No, I kind of like the lowercase. So you're going to tell me all that. That's a maintainability issue. Agree. So we just didn't do anything with it. So that's fine. I'm not going to panic about those Solent issues. It is good practice to go through and review them, without a doubt. Continue. There you are. Gosh. I should have made more regular commits there. That would have been cleaner. Okay, so now we're going to check out development. He says with confidence. I'm going to go to GitHub Liquid Sky. We're going to merge that into development. Create a pull request. There's a massive amount of changes. That's fine. Running the unit tests. Make sure that passes first. That would have been good to do up front. I'm glad I put that check in there though, because that is going to save me later on a lot from making bad commits, right? From making bad pushes, especially when I'm taking this sort of attitude to it. Or oh yeah, it's just this. Let's just merge it in. Those pull require those tests will at least mean that I haven't just nonchalantly just push code I shouldn't push. Okay, so let's do fetch. Update. So this will all disappear. There we go. Let's delete that branch locally. We don't need it. I'm trying to keep this relatively clean so that there's no messing around with that. Okay. So let's kind of talk about this using my favorite tool. Create. This is going to be a ticket to planning item workflow. So this is something I've been kind of putting off, I suppose. But I need to tackle the problem. And this is again another area where, and if I was doing this with a team, if I was doing this in a business, this discussion would happen as one big chunk, right? Sorry, I'm just watching the dog. I need to go do something in a second. This discussion would happen as one big chunk of discussion, but this is an architectural concern and a software design concern. There's a set of rules that probably need to be respected. But I'd have to just kind of work them out, right? I'd kind of, we'd go back and forth, we'd discuss how, why, whatever. So the general design I'm going for right this second is one of, I have a ticket. So a ticket is a support item, right? There is the concept of moving the ticket status, right? So right now the boards do not matter, right? There is no Kanban board here, but there is a status attached to a ticket. A fundamental thing that I'm trying to figure out is one of ownership and visibility. So do I worry about the attaching of users to things right now? No, I think I can work on the users once I've got this first stage in place, because then the user notifications, who's attached, who cares, etc., can be attached to things in general. What I need to do is kind of consider, how does a ticket, so I'm going to go for tickets, planning items, and I'll go into that in a second, and stories, right? So there's going to be a flow, right? Each one of these can have a status. Each one of these, so a ticket can become a planning item. A ticket can become a story, right? A planning item can become a story, but there is never a path back. A story can't go back to becoming a planning item. Once it's a story, it's deemed workable and therefore should be worked upon. A ticket can become a story because a ticket could be, we could determine, yep, this is actually something that needs to be worked on right now. There's no planning or discussion. We need to do this, or there's no need to move it into a planning item and promote it that way. That's just an extra step that we don't need. We know all the information. We just need to make sure that it's assigned to a developer and worked upon in an upcoming sprint. As much as I'd like to say that shouldn't happen, it does happen. And if I don't support it, that will create a problem. So the general concept is a ticket is a ticket. All the notes, etc., for a ticket are available. When the ticket is promoted to a planning item, so again, each one of these also has status. So we have pending. No, that's not. I don't want to display that as. Let's just do it as text. So each one of these can be pending, in progress, or complete. Right? Each one of these can be pending, in progress, and complete, and each one of these can be pending, in progress, and complete. Subtle differences between workflows doesn't really matter there. What I mean there is, I might have 5 swim lanes to my stories. I might have 4 swim lanes to my planning items, but ultimately a story is in one of 3 different states, right? It is pending, in progress, or complete, right? Right this second. Sorry, an item. And this is why I was referring to work items originally, right? But I think that is a bad idea to refer to it as work items, because it kind of, each one of these is going to have behaviors and whatnot of its own. So, first pass at my plan, I'm going to try and think through, how do I promote a ticket to a planning item, right? So ultimately we'll create a planning items component and start to worry about those. But I do not want to just jump into code. However, I do need to go and grab a cup of coffee. I am feeling very lethargic today. I'll be right back. I am back. My apologies for that. Ooh, okay. I'm feeling a little bit more worn down than I thought I was. So I apologize. Hey, daughter, how you doing? I was up late trying to get some code working. Oh, so a late start to your day. Well, that's somewhat reasonable. It works, but it takes too much RAM. Optimization. You get there. Class size times number of records. No. Yeah, you've got some limitations there, right? Yeah, it's not an optimize. That's not an optimization. If I stream on buffer, is it never allocated? Well, it'll be allocated at some point. It's just how you deallocate it, right? If you're streaming it out, that's going to climb no matter what. So if you pull in 1,000 records, you're going to end up with 1,000 at some point. But pre-allocation, yeah, if you're streaming it, then it won't be pre-allocated. So only what you ask for will be there. So like if you're using enumerable, right, and you're paging through it, you're not going to allocate those classes until you actually need them, because the execution will happen when you ask for the data. Like I just buffer or stream it to file. Yeah, you could do it that way as well. It's just delaying the allocation. Yeah, I mean, if you need the data, if you need access to the classes, you're going to end up with that cost, right? It's not an optimization problem I've had to come across, so it's not one I'm too familiar with overall. I mean, I suppose there will be techniques. Compression or there's a senior firmware dev in Japan who might have the answers. He mentioned compression. Yeah, I mean that would be a solution, right? If you can compress what you have and stream it out, and the problem is the usage, I suppose. For me, that would be my question. Would be, is this your database thing? In which case, are you? If you're saying, "Hey, I want a million records," then the system's going to allocate them as you need them, even with enumerable. If the compressor cannot transform it, right? No. So I suppose it's where do you transform? Yeah. Yeah, because like you said, enumeration is just deferring the allocation. But if you're trying to transform a set of 1,000,000 records, SQL still does that. It just does it internally in its engine, and then using .NET, you are retrieving that. So .NET is not going to be good for that piece. You'd have to be to do it effectively. I think what you'd end up doing is you'd be writing kind of a link provider of your own and manipulating all that in memory or in file in a raw form. This is doable, I know, because of the 10 billion row challenge. Yeah, but again, like I said, it's not an optimization challenge I've come up against or needed to do before, so it's not something I have a vast experience of. So I'm always relying upon SQL Server and whatnot to do all that sort of stuff for me. Be interested to know what your solution is when you find it. a workable solution though, just from the education standpoint. I'm sure you will. I'm not driving myself crazy over this one. Oh dear. Yeah. I'll argue with the DevOps guy to just use the extra RAM. So this is a work thing. Or is this your database thing? Yeah, work thing. Okay. Wow. And you have an allocations issue. Wow. Yeah, if it's just assigning data that you're manipulating and transforming in memory, you have no choice. You're gonna have to do some crazy optimizations, but you have no choice on if you're transforming 1,000,000 records in memory, and you need that data out. Yeah, you're gonna have to figure out a very complicated system of buffers there, etc. Um, yeah, yeah, I'd be interested to know if you actually have a shareable solution there. Obviously, as a work thing, that's not necessarily easily done. Okay. Wow. Today I just feel completely out of it. I do not feel um, at all with it today. Buying a house next year has left me in knots. Yeah. How much to put in the market versus JCs? Ah. Yeah, only you know. Only you know your finances and investment. You know, you want available money. So yeah, only you know that one. Okay, so I'm doing a very bad job at keeping people in the stream today. I'm doing a very bad job at discussion and retention. So this stream is pretty much a write off at this point. Dear. And someone downvoted water drink water day one on YouTube, and it bugs me because I'm like, leave a comment. If you don't like it, I appreciate you don't like it. I just love to know what you didn't like so I can maybe reflect on that and change what I do. Like, give me something constructive to work with. Update on my tickets thing with tasks. Tasks on a story are fairly useful. Breaking up a story into several tickets that have no true meaning are not. Tasks on a story are fairly useful. Breaking up a story into several tickets that have no true meaning are not. Agree. Right. But if I make 5 tickets, it gets very hard to track what's going on. Yes. Here, 1 task equals 1 PR. Gotcha. So that's what epics are, right? If you have, or in theory, that's what epics are, right? Because what you just described is, um, Yeah. Again, I don't see. Again, I'm not sure about that process, right? From my perspective, I've never done it that way. Tasks on stories, I'm not going to not implement tasks on stories, right? That's not something I don't. I things like that are going to be necessary, right? I'm not debating the need for the tasks because people like to organize work that way. I'm just understanding if tasks are broken up by technical concern, tasks are PRs, and a story can have, or a ticket can have 5 tasks, then okay, so that comes down to how your application is laid out and aligns with that. Okay, get that right. Should there be a priority order for tickets? After this ticket, another ticket will be made. This ticket is related to this ticket. So for my stuff, what I'm designing here, obviously review date kind of indicates urgency. It doesn't review priority, right? Because 2 tickets with the same review date could have very much different um, demands. So like build API, build front end could be 2 tasks. I can actually split the front end into multiple tasks fairly easily, but the API is more difficult. For dev, priority is very useful. For devs at the beginning of a sprint, priority is useful. Urgency versus necessity. Um, but you do bring up a good point. The workflow aspect of this is something that I do need to make sure I test as I move forward and kind of pressure test. Does it deal with other workflows? Because I only understand the workflows I've used, and I've never worked in the workflow you're describing either. Tasks are something we've tried on several different projects. Tasks are something that just so Jira makes a mess with tasks. But again, maybe that's the workflow that makes the mess, not the actual tasks themselves. So when used the way that Jira intends, tasks work pretty well, but our workflow doesn't adapt. So maybe it's just a lack of experience in using the workflow that Jira intends there. Like was asked to do a bug fix and need to know when the tester, needs it fixed. The tester's dictating that. I think it's the workflow that makes sense. So if you're building your application in such a way that, let's say your application is actually distributed differently. Okay, let me kind of show. If I'm asked to implement a screen, right, I know there's no clients attached to this right this second, right? But if I'm asked to implement a screen that shows a list of tickets, right? First, I have a UI concern, right? What does that look like? So the story for building the UI, let's go with slice. All right, let's say we're building one story for this, right? Because there's no value until I can see the list of tickets. So I build one story. That story is I need to see a list of tickets. The tickets should order by review date, descending, and I should see the username, an assigned user, if there is one, attached to each ticket. I should see the title of the ticket, and the review date should be visible, right? Here's the UI markup. That's the story. Let's go with that as an example. I'm not saying I'm deliberately discussing this for this point, right? So I have the ticket, I have the story as one story. So in my world, let's say we go through and say, okay, well now I need to implement a UI. So let's say there's a clients folder up here, right? There's a clients folder. I need to implement the UI in the Angular application, say. I update, I create the UI layout, etc. I mock out the APIs, I verify that's testable. I then go into the tickets and add the API for the endpoint to get the tickets list, right? And I build this out and then I wire them up, right? Right now, this is one repository. So that's one PR in theory, right? If I pull the client, let's say in the world where this isn't testable independently, I have to have this backend to work for it to actually, then why am I doing it as multiple PRs, right? I can't check out that code and test it independently, right? There's no value added to the system if that piece gets out before the other piece is there. Right, yeah. So what is the value in doing that, right? And where is that controlled? So one story that it is a little larger, right? It is a little bit more difficult in that it is um, um, a lot of things to do at once, right? So let's go for your path. Your path would be that is still one story, but has several tasks. So there'll be a task for the UI, there'll be a task for the API. Each one of them would have its own PR attached to it, right? So there's actual work independent. That story then rolls up and has value. But if any one of those PRs is pulled incorrectly, there's danger to the system. So what's the value of a PR with just the front end plus mocked API behind a feature flag is a question. Right. So you have to have process in place to make sure that there's no risk of one PR getting merged without the other. They are not dependent. They are not independent, rather. They are dependent PRs. They're just independent in so much as, and I can bet that the review process is a little simpler because you're focused on one thing. The code review is less, but you cannot check out one PR and test it locally very easily. Yeah, you can. If it's the UI, sorry, I'm kind of talking to myself at the same time because I'm trying to see your perspective on it as well, right? Yeah, that's not a bad workflow. It makes sense. I like the idea of it breaking up the work, the PR. I don't like the independence, the dependent nature of them. By being independent, they risk a challenge. No, but that's the point, right? A workflow. You know, how many times have do I say, right? It doesn't matter what other people think is right. It matters that you are effective and you can work in that flow. And oftentimes it's not effective, right? Because there's pieces that don't fit, and that's what I'm trying to put in place is the pieces to help those things fit. Amal, good morning. How are you doing? So no matter what I do, I've still got to support, even if I consider them quirky use cases, I should support them and take them into consideration. And that's why I'm streaming it, because you who are watching have different experience than I do, right? Just because I've done this for a long time doesn't mean that I know everything about it. I'm going to struggle. Doing good. Thank you. Good to hear it, Amal. Mr. Anhorn, 52 months. Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate that. Yeah. So in May, is it May? So you've been subscribed for 2 months. You subscribed pretty much the moment I was affiliate, I think. Because obviously you got the founder badge. You were one of the first. You and Ancient Coder. who I do not see anymore. With the first subs, Junicus. Junicus still subscribes. Dota, you're an original member. Yeah, Ancient Coda hasn't. I haven't seen Ancient Coda at all, online or otherwise. I've pinged several times to say hello. Yeah, Junicus has been back around the last couple of weeks. You know, so the original members. So May apparently is my 5-year anniversary. May 29th is my 5-year anniversary. Task, okay. Huh? Oh, this. You're looking at this, Amal? This is a fast endpoint. So this is a status. So this is a task that returns a status of okay with a model. Yeah. So yeah, in May 29th is my 5-year stream anniversary or whatever it's called. So actually, I was contemplating doing something for that. Maybe a bigger coding challenge, maybe something else. So I'm open to ideas. But yeah, 52 months. I sincerely appreciate the support. I sincerely appreciate all of you who have been around for so long listening to me waffle on. Streamlabs. Why is that one on, but the other one's not? Junicus, thank you very much. 52. That boggles my mind that it's been that long that I've known all of you. So Streamlabs has just prompted the Prime Gaming thing, right? If you're Prime, and even that's such an old alert. It says Prime Gaming. I don't think it's even called Prime Gaming right now, is it? But anyway, that doesn't matter. But the one I do want it to schedule is the one it's not scheduling. So that one I thought was turned off. Yeah. Yeah. Still listening to me waffle on after all this time. Reminds me of COVID. Oh dear. Waffles. So my wife I'm gonna divert now. I'm on a food dieting. My brain is not really with this today fully. Um my wife got me one of the Hamilton Beach like sandwich makers, so it's kind of two hot plates and it's got the stacked rings. So you basically put the bottom ring down, put an English muffin or something in, put some cheese in, then you put a flat thing down and get like egg or whatever you want to do and put it on the top and it kind of makes an egg patty, and then you put your top piece of bread in and then close it. Um, and I've been making my wife and daughter. I got sausage, and I fried up some sausage and put the egg in the top part, and then put the sausage patty right in the middle of the egg. Then put the top of the English muffin on, and then you just close it and cook it for several minutes. It's very good. But they've been going to school with freshly made breakfast sandwiches every morning. But waffles, so we've got a little waffle maker, and I'm going to make waffle sandwiches next week. So I'm going to do the same thing. Instead of English muffins, I'm going to make mini waffles and make the sandwiches out of them. Can't really eat sausage regularly. No, it's not. It's not good for you to eat it regularly. But these things are pretty good. So it's a Hamilton Beach breakfast sandwich maker or something, right? The joys of getting older. Yep. my red meat intake is down to maybe 3 or 4 times a month, but that's because of my cholesterol rather than that. So yeah, but yeah, the joys. Okay, yeah, I can understand that. I'm gonna try and sway us away from a medical ailments discussion from food, and get back to this a little bit. But no, um, thanks, daughter, and thank you for your input as well. Thank you for the discussion on the stuff. We'll definitely review it, and as we get further forward with this, we'll test your use cases as well and see that they still function in this platform. So, thank you. Okay, so um, I do apologize. I'm not totally with it today. I think I'm feeling a little worn down in terms of just general energy. I lost my other monitor this morning, so that's why the screen looks very thin and wide. So my apologies for that. So what I'm talking about here is the promotion of tickets. I've spent the last couple of weeks obviously refactoring everything. And we have tickets, and my proposal is that we have work items, not work items, we have planning items, and then stories, so that stories are not immediately from tickets, right? There's an interim step. So that's kind of where I'm heading with this. What do you think of this? I want to make a process in my app that copies the config from one store to another. It's using an API, so it's a long running process. The way I'm thinking is I fire a message in Mediator, and the handle uses an event aggregator to send events as they are copied to update the UI. Does it sound okay? Fire a message in Mediator. So, is an event aggregator to send events as they're copied. The event aggregator being connected to your distributed system. I mean, it sounds reasonable. To send events as they are copied. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of realistically what I'm doing here, right? So, um, within the domain, actually, this one's probably a better example. So, when I update the tenant user here, right? I'm thinking of the event aggregator because I want to subscribe to the events in that particular screen in the UI instead of using notifications in Mediator. Right. So what I'm doing here is I'm adding a bit of over engineering of this piece, I think, still. I'm adding a domain event when we update or when we create the user, right? This tenant user was registered. Right now is actually, so I'm using mediator rather than mediator. Just add an O in between the T and the R in Mediator, and I'm using that library. And what happens is this publishes a notification. Ultimately, this is a notification in there, and there's the scheduled message. Okay, Streamlabs woke up after an hour and 20 minutes. Good job. So this publishes an event or publishes a notification. So underneath this is just a domain event, which is actually an iNotification, which Mediator and Mediator both have this concept, right? So a message that can be handled from multiple handlers rather than a command. You're not sending a command, you're publishing, hey, this changed, do what you want. And then in my application, I have a subscriber for that event, right? And this publishes my domain, my integration event now. And that sounds like what you're doing. The only disconnect there is that last week kind of worked on an outbox for Mediator because we have some transactional processes that wrap this, so I don't want these events to fire if I've not completed my transaction. So it sounds exactly like what you're trying to do there, right? You want mediator, you fire a notification in mediator, the event aggregator pulls those events and sends them. And that's essentially what I'm doing here. I was using Kafka for my notification thing. The reason I'm using Kafka is because I can publish this, and as I build the system, other things can care about it, right? And all I'm doing now, by the way, in terms of this, is I'm calling this an integration event, because all it's going to do is publish this information. If this information was to grow, I'd add more information on this event. It's not event specific, but then I give it a source so I know where it came from in the originating system. Because what I've realized is that I can publish the tenant integration event from other places within this code base, right? There's other things that could react to needing to publish a tenant. Maybe I add a user, or I add an address, and that needs to it needs to republish the tenant, so I need to publish that event. So this will pick it up. Yeah, kind of. I couldn't find a way to subscribe on demand for notifications in media. I want to handle them only when the UI is opened. But if I use mediator notifications, it's more like I want a handler for things that happen somewhere else at any point. Yes. Yeah. So notification. So subscribe on demand. I want to handle them only when the UI is opened. So you could put a behavior in there, right, that bails out if the UI isn't open. So you could actually create a behavior that certain events would be so you can use the pipeline behavior, and if you know the UI is open, then the behavior counts. If not, it doesn't do it. So then it won't even subscribe those events. You could do something like that. So the notification just goes to nowhere if the UI is not open. If you're sending a command, again, you've got that control. The event aggregation stuff makes sense. So for me, this is a way of making sure that. So I've really kind of understood. I've really appreciated just what this pattern means for me in terms of control of my data and the ability to hook it up. Yeah, I think it's perfect. It sounds perfectly reasonable. Yeah. I mean, isn't that what? I mean, most systems are kind of reactive in nature now, and that's exactly what you're trying to do. You're saying, hey, we need to react to this. We need to do other things. So yeah, sounds reasonable to me. Okay, so actually, continuing on that topic, right? In terms of notifications and publishing, right? So what I want to do is I want to break the workflow of software development. We have a general workflow, right? We have work we need to do that is designed and planned and found by product management, by sales, by whoever it is that's finding the customer's needs and demands. We have a process that involves someone reviewing those requirements, trying to formalize them in some sort of way, and then handing them to developers. Once we've developed software, it's never perfect. So we need a way of saying, hey, this customer has this issue. Let's look at this thing. Right. So tickets are the customer has an issue or a user has an issue. It doesn't need to be the customer. It could be an actual internal user, but they have a problem with software. And again, this sort of software, this particular sort of software is definitely one that you kind of dog food as well, because your internal users are constantly finding things in the application that don't work because you're building the software, using the software. So I'm going to go crazy filling all the roles. So anyway, the ticket would be the entry point for a customer having an issue. The planning item is kind of an interim step I want to put in place, because software like Jira has a type of thing, right? A task, a story, a spike, etc. They're just categorizations on the thing, right? So stories might be too general, but a planning item, it's not necessarily a spike, or maybe it is a spike actually. But it doesn't need to. It can start from anywhere, and I don't know how to draw time-based diagrams. I'm not really good with those sorts of things. Junikus, thank you. I did that to try. I did the coding stream challenge to try and gauge interest in that process. So this one won't count necessarily, but it's good to know that people do contribute. It's kind of a good thing to see. Yeah. So the coding challenge was actually a suggestion of someone from the YouTube stream, and I'm kind of embracing it a little bit because it's a good little good little diversion. It's a one stream thing. Work on the coding challenge, and if people do enjoy it, I want to get the feedback. So that's why I put the channel point vote in there. But yeah. Anyway, so my concept is tickets are still tickets. They will always remain tickets, but they can also be promoted to planning items. So a planning item can be sourced from a ticket, or it can be sourced from a user directly, right? So it's an entry point into the application, or an entry point into the flow, or it's entered into from a ticket. A planning item continues on the ticket. So my thought is, ticket never stops being a ticket. It can be complete. Can it be complete? If a ticket is promoted, what state is the ticket in? Right. So what I want to do is, I don't want to lose the fact that a ticket existed. I do not want to lose the fact that the ticket has information that is pertinent. So my initial thinking is that when I create a ticket, I publish the tickets, right? So this has the ticket information. This has the ticket information, right? It is still stored. When it's promoted, it's literally, this information is now attached to a planning item and has a source ticket, right? So all the information is there, but then there's extra pieces that get added on top. If we were to update a ticket note, the note gets updated here, it gets updated here. That note is always updated. Yeah, they are. They're specializations, right? The idea of the planning item, by the way, is just purely one of, I see too often what we do is we have kind of statuses in Jira where you can say, okay, this is ready for planning. Now it's ready for dev. And the PM marks is ready for dev, but there's no points on it. There's no, they're just marking that. So it looks to everybody else like, oh, it's off their plate. And that bugs me a little bit, because it's kind of, frustrating. In terms of, it's not really helping with visibility. It's not really in a state where it needs to be worked on, it's in a state of they don't believe there's anything for them to do, so it should be ready for dev. But now we can't just pull it into a sprint because it's not actually ready. So a planning item is when there's things that need to be worked out on something, they are specifically planning items. So you could actually use this to build up the idea of the application or the idea of the stories, etc., and then promote these planning items to become stories when they're actually fully formed. So it can kind of be a work in progress that the actual developers don't see, and they don't clutter up the backlog. Each item will have a review date, no matter what. You cannot avoid a review date. The review date is, hey, when should this be looked at? And at that point, you can decide whether it gets removed or whatever. If a ticket is promoted, it will never be able to be deleted unless this is altered. So there's some kind of workflows there that I need to consider in terms of what does it mean to delete. But for right now, I want to move forward with the concept of promotion, right? What happens? When I create a ticket, do I automatically publish the data? I don't think I do. I don't think I do publish the data because the data doesn't matter to this or to this until it becomes part of this. If I promote a ticket to story, do I care? We might get into service bus here because this doesn't fit neatly with Kafka, and I'm not using Kafka as a message bus. So workflow wise, yeah, we might have to have a tinker with service bus. So my thought is this information stays within tickets until it needs to be moved out of tickets or it gets promoted. A promotion means this status has to go. Does the concept work? What is this doing? So and this can have promoted. You can never go backwards, right? There is no backwards flow, right? So you can't demote a story to a ticket, right? If a story should have been a ticket all along, the story is closed, and that's it. When a ticket is promoted to a planning item, let's focus on that piece right this second. What do I want to do? I want to say, hey, we're promoting this ticket to a planning item. On ticket promoted, I might want to publish the data because I've told this system you expect this ticket now. So now it can pick it up. Right, okay, that works. So I might actually get into service bus here because I want to use the right technology for the right job. And I think service bus, I need to send a command. This is promote ticket to planning item. What happens then is when I do that, I publish an event that says ticket promoted, which then gets triggered in here, and each one of these items that is associated to that ticket gets published to Kafka. Planning items now knows about the ticket and can consume those events. Good morning, Apex. How are you doing? Oh dear. Okay, that starts to feel natural. I'm okay. I feel very out of it today. I feel tired and a bit worn down. So I'm hoping that's not showing too much on the stream, but yeah, just feel I was super off yesterday. Yeah. How's your computer? I assume your computer's functioning okay, being that you are in the stream. Okay, we're going to do a service bus test. Ah. So it was a master plan. It was like outside water. Let's go. You've had enough of this thing for today. Prototypes. Service bus. They got all the outside water. Okay. So I apologize for the yeah, okay, so he remembers that. I apologize for the width of the screen and the narrowness of the screen, but my my new monitor is working fine. However, the 4K monitor that I was using yesterday to stream off of, because obviously I get the full screen, died on me this morning, it looks like. So I think I'm going back to my 24-inch monitor no matter what anyway, because I don't feel this is the right monitor for the stream. Although it is working okay, I think, with the zoom. Okay, so this would be, let's call this, actually, let's have a look at this. Okay, I want to get into Service Bus, right? Service Bus is going to come with it some real challenges. I haven't done this in a long time, so I'm going to have to learn. There are several options here. I could use Mass Transit. Mass Transit is an open source version. I'm not going to use Service Bus because that is costly and limited for the use I'm going to use it for. You then back it by a transport, so I can still use Kafka as a transport for Mass Transit if I want to, I think, but rather than using MSMQ or something. So that might be an option. So I can configure it still to use Kafka, just keep it service busy, the service bus components in the service bus. So the concept here is this promotion, right, happens on service bus, right? It does not happen in Kafka. After I have promoted it to once I promote, and this is where I probably need to do a course in how to draw reasonable diagrams that actually make sense other than me scribbling like a crazy person. Once I no, it's still not going to work right. Whatever. Once I do that promotion, right? So I send a command that is promote to planning item. Whoa, what are you doing? I did not press that. Once I send a command to planning item, then what will happen is a publish, right? And that publish with Kafka will publish ticket notes and any other information, right? And let's see how we do it. We'll do this. I'm going to do this that way. And that way, right? They'll publish via Kafka. Because that's just information at that point. That's not, I'm not sending it over this command. I don't have to dump everything into the command. I'm going point to point with this message, with this command, right? But then once this is complete, I say, hey, publish. And then that will publish the information. And then this system will know that it's expecting that ticket information and it will consume that from then on, right? So now it's essentially telling it, hey, subscribe to this information, by the way. What could go wrong there? Time could go wrong. Time in so much as if this command is not acknowledged, right? So let's say that is the case, because that's a use case I'm going to have to look at, right? If that command is not acknowledged, then this publish happens, this information gets published, and this system doesn't see anything about it, right? Then we have this thinks it's part of it, or this doesn't even think it's part of a ticket, right? There's no planning item created for that ticket, and this information is just discarded. That is a challenge, but we're gonna have to get to that one. We're gonna have to kind of test with that. But I think, I mean, if you're watching and you're paying attention, you're more than welcome. If you've got any experience with this, or you have an opinion on whether this is a good idea or a bad idea, I'm more than happy to listen. S has been thinking through that one. Nice. Okay, so I think that works. Let's have a look. Let's mass transit. And also if there's other message buses, I know that there is some stuff in the critter stuff that is all message brokers. RabbitMQ scares me. Someone had some criticism around mass transit, and I don't know what the criticism was leveled at. This feels like it's a reasonable path to go down now. So, again, if you have any thoughts or opinions, please let me know. Schedule message. I don't want to do anything with RabbitMQ if I can avoid it. I'm just saying that RabbitMQ is a transport for mass transit. I think Kafka is as well. Kafka definitely is for end service bus. Let's do the typical thing I would do. Best service bus software.net. .NET from 2009? Nope. Yes, I get Azure Service Bus exists. I'm not in Azure. I'm not using Azure right this second. I do not want to necessarily align myself to any... oh, that's a product. So that ain't happening. Wow, DNR TV. That was a good series of videos. I don't want to align myself to any cloud platform. I do not want to align myself to any cloud platform right this second. ESBs. Workday is an ESB. Yeah. Yeah, they're all they're the big pieces. Yeah, let's go on. We can always review. Okay, quick starts. In memory. I don't want to watch a video. .NET new install mass transit templates. Includes project and item templates, simplifying the creation of new projects. I don't want to do that. I do not want to use a template. I want to add it in. create a consumer, run the project. Don't want to use templates. I get that it makes it easier, but I want to know the pieces. A message contract is defined code first by creating a .NET type. A message can be defined using a record class or interface. Messages should only consist of properties. Methods and other behaviors should not be included. That's reasonable. Interfaces. Yeah. Classes. I mean, the documentation for mass transit has definitely improved significantly in the last few years. Mediator. Oh, joy. I don't want to blur the two. What I'm trying to figure out right this second is I want to make sure that these are distinct components. So although it might be useful to merge them in the end as concepts, I don't want to blur the lines with the behaviors, right? I have an established pattern for using for mediator. I'm not going to use end service mass transits mediator unless I have to, right? If it overlaps, then I'm going to have an issue, right? Again, the technology we choose can have an impact on more than just how our application functions. It can have a direct bearing on how the application is architected. So here, I'm looking for a point-to-point command. I know that it's going to promote to planning item. I know that I'm going to say, hey, this ticket, and that's all I really need to say. This ticket is now a planning item, which will generate a planning item in here, which will then subscribe. So this will be subscribed to events from these topics anyway, and they will consume those topics. And if they see their ticket ID that we have associated here, then it will actually pull that. And then we can mimic that exact same process going forward, right? A publish up here works the exact same way. In that everything that's associated with the planning item that needs to be promoted gets promoted. And what that means is, as these get changed through the system anyway, so if you go back in and edit the note on a ticket, the fact that it will publish a domain event that is then subscribed to from the publishing, which will then publish, right? So it could make the system chatty if things are not promoted. You could exclude them if they're not actually published. You could actually exclude them, so the individual publishers will say, nope, this isn't actually, no one else cares about this, so we don't need to do anything to keep the chattiness down. And now the actual overall system architecture starts to take shape. And again, this stuff here, right, follows the same pattern, right? Planning item, right? Notes and anything else, right? They get promoted, right? I'm not wiring them up to these because they don't necessarily go to these. They go to whoever cares. Because again, if this ticket gets promoted to a story, this information is listened to over here, not over here. If it makes it from a ticket to a planning item to a story, all that information is transferred and ticket changes will hit stories, right? But each of these is its own independent store. Now, it does mean information is getting replicated. It does mean that there is duplication of data on a massive scale potentially, right? But there is only a single source of truth, right? This keeps independence. These services can actually be available or unavailable. You can actually turn off planning items, and planning items are never available to the system, so you don't even have that store. There's options along the path. Lester Cab, thank you very much for the follow. I appreciate it. I hope you are well. If you are just coming to the stream for the first time, the stream will generally cover slightly more advanced topics. I'm not doing beginning C# sort of stuff, but it is stuff that if you have a question about, if you have a concern about, if you want to go back and look at more basic stuff about how I'm building things, feel free to ask a question. I do want the stream to be beginner friendly as well as experience friendly, so feel free. And if you think I'm doing something wrong, if you think that I'm making mistakes, I'm open to learning, as long as you're able to accurately depict, what I'm doing wrong, rather than just you're doing it wrong. So yeah, so welcome to the stream. Is there a Saga implementation here? Well, if you fall at a step, the system has to rewind. If you fall at a step, a Saga implementation in terms of what? I mean, in terms of long running, a planning item could be a ticket that is promoted and is a Saga. And now it listens to events and it cares about, tickets and notes being updated in Kafka. That's going to be the tricky part, the overlap there, if I do it that way. But be interested to explore the Saga concept a little bit more here. If you fall at a step, the system has to rewind. Yeah. So far this feels reasonable, right? It's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. It's going to take me a long time to implement any of this. However, from a promotion standpoint, it makes sense. Yes, it means the information is replicated, but it means that information is independent and these systems can be available separately. It means they can function independently as well. So you could actually turn off tickets and planning items and just use stories. So, and the rest of the system just doesn't care if I break it down in this sort of way, which would help in terms of, hey, you just want stories? Just use stories. You just want tickets? Just use tickets. I'm going to turn off features. But let's not run ahead of myself, eh? So, yeah, let's see if yeah, that's where I was going. Right. I don't want a quick start. I want to do oh dear. Let's have a look. Q Docker compose. Especially right now, I do not want to blur Kafka with mass transit. I do not want to blur those lines. So I'm okay using RabbitMQ as a transport. I know I'm going to need it. There's no point in trying to use the in-memory or trying to do that sort of stuff. I might as well get RabbitMQ configured and start those lessons. Did I just miss something? No, I didn't go back. Whatever. RabbitMQ. How to set up RabbitMQ with Docker Compose. Okay, let's do it as part of. So what I do have. Milan, it looks like you need to implement on choreography. Things are getting complicated. Things are getting complicated. Let's have a look. But I mean, what I'm trying to do is not simple, right? This is not something that is an everyday thing. I'm trying to build something that is going to .NET Weekly. I really need to get some sort of orchestration versus choreography. There we go. Okay. Working with distributed systems is both fun and challenging at the same time. One of the challenges is designing effective communication between. Gotcha. Okay, so orchestration versus choreography, right? just the concept of this, right? Just this chaos. Now, again, I'm not going for pure microservices. I'm going for components or whatever you want to call them, mini monoliths, whatever. I'm starting at that level. I do not want to break out microservices because I am one person, right? I do want to order the code logically. I do want to construct it in such a way that I can maintain it, but I do not want to do, hey, this is a ticket. This is a note. Each one is a microservice, right? Orchestration is a centralized approach to microservices communication. One of the services takes on the role of the orchestrator and coordinates the communication between services. Orchestration uses command-driven communication. Right. Choreography. Right. Okay. So the difference here is what I'm trying. Well, again, we're getting to. We're kind of going in the middle here. So, ticket. Let's go over that. So, in the world where I am orchestrating, my ticket system is the orchestrator in this concept, right? So, tickets orchestrates, create, promote ticket as planning item. That is a command. This is an orchestrator. When that successfully is, and I'm assuming I can put acknowledgements in there, when that is acknowledged, right? Okay, choreography wise, yeah. So orchestration wise, this is a command to here. It then publishes events, things happen, right? I'm splitting the system though, right? That's so in this version, ship order goes to shipping. Shipping acknowledges. There we go, we've got it, right? We can now proceed with our workflow. So in this instance, I'm using it as an orchestrator. In this version, the message broker is listening to order created, right? Order created, oh, shipping cares about order created, do what I need to do. Notification cares about order created, oh, let's send a confirmation. These things care about their inbound things. Inventory reserved, so the choreography relies upon the eventing of the system. Tickets, promoting a ticket is an action. There is no internal concept of promotion, right? It doesn't matter to this system that I'm promoting. Promoting is an action that triggers an outside process. So I think in this instance, orchestration is the better pattern. Which is interesting because then I go into almost immediately sort of choreography, right? Because then I'm publishing this data and aligning to choreography because these are now published as data states. They're not events in the true meaning of an event. There's no ticket was updated, notes was updated. I'm just publishing these as current state of the system in reaction to ticket was promoted, right? Essentially. I could publish an event out of this that says ticket, planning item created, And then when I receive that in the ticket system, I say, hey, yeah, I've got it. So I could use a little bit of a mix of orchestration versus choreography. I think more likely though, I care more about the command for right this second. I'm open to discussion on this as a concept. If you're interested in an actual, this is a real use case now, right? This is not a made up piece. This is actually something I need to achieve. So I'm open to discussion. For those joining that are new to the stream, this is a product I do plan on building, right? I am treating it like a real product. The code for this is not open sourced. This is something I'm doing. So, you know, contribution, although appreciated, you know, there's no good way of me sharing that contribution. So I get that might hold some people back from contributing, being that I'm trying to build a real product. We do have another project that we can work on stream, which is we started this week, which is Water Drink Water, which is kind of a mini project to create an app to track water consumption throughout the day by myself and my daughter. I want to kind of make it a little bit of a reminder system. It just seemed like a really good little use case that could build out something a little bit more complicated, but is relatively simple in terms of actual actions. And that is open source, and that is on our streams GitHub account. And again, if you're interested, there is Discord links below. You're more than welcome to jump in, continuing conversations from the stream, and yeah, and you know, I just get to a point where I'm comfortable and I'm starting to feel energetic, and unfortunately, I am out of time. Afternoon, Mr. Jones. You just made it. Yes, unfortunately, you just made it. The annoying thing is, it was starting to. I really was getting into that conversation. Yeah. This is definitely something we need to continue on discussing. So tomorrow, I'm going to try, if I can get some time this evening, to try and get mass transit at least installed in a small demonstration app. No worries. I will be joining you there in 30 minutes. I plan on getting this up and running, right? So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use RabbitMQ. I'll get a RabbitMQ Docker image set up. I'll get a point-to-point message command, see that I can get acknowledgements working. If that works, figure out how to build that into the main application, and then we can do promotion. So what that means for the main application is a whole lot more notifications in the system, a whole lot more, and it actually will stretch the legs on the whole many publishers or many producers concept within the application, which is why I've switched to the way I'm doing Kafka right this second. But yeah, if you're interested in continuing this, please drop a follow. If you're on YouTube and you're watching and you haven't yet, please subscribe, like, comment, all those fun things that you do on YouTube. You know, I love discussing this stuff, right? I love talking about it. I love moving forward with this stuff. So it's interesting to know what other people's experiences and opinions are. So I hope to get more. But for now, I do have to end. I do have a day job, unfortunately. They expect me to actually work. The processes proceed step by step under the control of the orchestrator. In orchestrator approach, you need to write the reverse command for each service. If you explode somewhere in the middle, you need to undo all the transaction. What will happen to the system if the orchestrator stops? Single point of failure. It is necessary to determine the need and choose the right one. yes, I don't disagree. We will go into those things and kind of work through those use cases for certain. I think that what I'm doing here is slightly a bit of a meld and might trigger some people's why using different technologies to do of things you can do with one. But maybe we explore that, right? It's not like I'm not willing to change the application and tip it on its head and redevelop it, right? But thank you as always. Thank you for the contribution. I really appreciate that. If you'd like to, if you have any more opinions or links, which I'm sure you have links, as always, I look forward to seeing them. Yeah. So yeah, join us in the Discord if you want to, and that will be that. Let's see, what does my friends list look like right this second in terms of people streaming to go over to? Is Tick Tick Boom? Oh, did you actually get up and running Apex? Yes, you did. But you're not there. Well, I'm gonna raid into Tick Tick Boom if he's working. He is working on his little startup. He's getting started on his own software. I will warn, the stream is not as PG as mine. I'm pretty certain of that fact. We'll raid over there, and then I will be back again tomorrow to do some more of this. But Tick Tick Boom is a recent sub and a recent supporter of the stream, so I think it's only fair to go out and raid there today. Please say hi, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Thank you all. Take care.